Yo, ladies and gentlemen, we are back again with part 3 of the inquest. Lock yourself in. We've got a lot to dive into, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start right here. We can see it on the screen. We've got message exchanged, message from phone, card was used. I want to start with the card was used, ladies and gentlemen, because as we know, recently we spoke about Lucy having drug money transferred into Jay's bank account. That information was verified by Little Miss Vodka. Here we have a few hours before Jay getting into a car with Abe and Rocky, trying to take money out of a cash machine, I believe. It says on the evening of June the 16th last year, the night before Jay disappeared. So it says the night before, but June the 16th would have been Sunday night, going into Monday morning. Now, we really have to pay attention to the times here, ladies and gentlemen, especially when we go over these 3 subjects. The times are crucial. So it says Jay's bank provider declines 2 debit card payments, one at 9:10 p.m. That was for 320 euros. And then the second, which was just literally a minute later, was for 160 euros. But the card had been declined. The bank declined the payments. At this point, you gotta ask yourself, why? Take ourselves back to what Little Miss Vodka told us about Jay's account being used to transfer drug money into. That transfer took place on the 15th of June. They're declining Jay's bank account on the 16th of June at 9 o'clock at night. What was Jay trying to withdraw that amount of money for? Why would he need cash? What did he need the cash for? For him to try the second time and only type in 160, which is basically half the amount of 320, it does seem like that could be money being used to pay off a small, minor drug debt. 320 euro drug debt could be built up over one evening. Now, I'm not saying that's what that money was for, but what we do have is money being transferred into Jay's account, and that money was for drugs. So if Jay was taking or trying to take 320 euros out of his account, that could have been the amount of drug money that was transferred into his account. But for whatever reason, the bank declined the payment and done that on 2 different occasions. Why did they do that? Is that because Jay never had the money in his account? Or is that because the bank was aware of some suspicious activity that was taking place on Jay's account? We don't know. We don't have clarity on that, but we have information confirming that Jay's account was attempted to be used on 2 different occasions shortly before he went missing. Now, if we quickly go to the top messages here, messages exchanged. So this is messages exchanged between Jay and somebody. We don't know who this somebody is. We're just being told it's a friend. According to what's being said, at 2:39 a.m., which would have been around 5 hours after Jay's bank card would have been declined, Jay sent his friend a message. And he said to his friend, "They've got a marker on me." Jay's friend responds with, "I think you need to go home, lad. You're off your barnet." That's what the friend responds with. So they're not taking Jay seriously. We don't know who the friend is. It would make more sense for them to tell us who that friend is. Again, the picture is being painted that Jay's just waved out of his face. And he's just sending weird messages to people, which doesn't make any sense. Bearing in mind, this is at 2:39 in the morning. The footage that we have of Jay with Brandon walking over to the stairs where Lucy's walking down and Brad's on his phone filming, that's at 1:45 in the morning. So we're talking about 45 minutes later, Jay is sending this to one of his friends. But where's Brad? Where's Brandon? Where's Lucy at that point? And where is Jay at this point? Where would Jay have been at this point to have been sending these type of messages to his friend? See, this is where Jay is more or less fearing for his life. That's what that message tells me. They've got a marker on me. And it doesn't really seem like a coincidence that he's mentioned that after 5 hours prior, card being declined for 320 euros. You then have to remember what the narrative is. Abe told us that Jay lost his key or gave his key to his friend, and his friend wanted to go back to the apartment, and Jay wanted to go for one more drink. That's just adding what Isla said. Jay, all by himself, felt like he had a marker on him. ends up with two mysterious guys going to a secluded Airbnb. After traveling to this Airbnb, ladies and gentlemen, 29 days, this guy's found dead at the bottom of the ravine. Nothing suspicious here, ladies and gentlemen, nothing suspicious whatsoever. Why? Because Mark Williams Thomas said so. Mark Williams Thomas spoke to a guy called Josh that no one can verify, no one knows who he is. He spoke to him and he gave him all of the information that he needed. And the other person that gave him all of the information that he needed was Ayub Qasim. Oh yeah, the guy that took Jay to the Airbnb. The guy that I believe is responsible for fabricating this whole story. The picture of Jay with a blanket, the picture of Jay in the back of the car and the message that goes across it. Fabricated by Ayub Qasim. But why? Why would they have to fabricate all of that information? Why would they have to fabricate that evidence? Like Rocky sleeping in the car. No proof that Jay was visually there. We have this audio that's potentially been attached to some imagery of Rocky sleeping in a car, and we're supposed to believe Jay was there, a compos mentis sounding Jay, a drunk Jay that just took 15 shots of vodka, as well as drinking Hennessy and taking all those pills, MDMA, cocaine, ketamine. But according to the audio and the video that Ayub showed us, Jay was put together. He knew what he was doing. But the genuine, real footage that we have of Jay, that we know come from the guy's phone in the nightclub, shows us Jay so waved out of his face that the only next destination for him, ladies and gentlemen, is finding a corner and sleeping, throwing up, conking out. You do not mix 15 shots of vodka with Hennessy and walk confidently down the road and through a ravine 7 hours later. You don't do it, let alone having ketamine, cocaine, and all of those other drugs in your system. You don't do it. And here we have messages that have been confirmed. Jay had sent to a friend saying they've got a marker on me. Shortly after, his bank card declines, and now we have evidence to prove Lucy was having drug money transferred into his account. Now, what's also going to add more twists to this already twisted story, ladies and gentlemen, is this message from Jay's phone. Between 5:03 a.m. and 5:52 a.m. on the morning Jay went missing, a message was sent from his phone saying, just took the 12K rollie. Now, we know about the 12K rollie. We know what the message said. We know that that message was fabricated by Ayub. Message was sent to someone in between the hours of 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning. He was in the back of Ayub's car in that picture. We've got Ayub taking the picture of Jay in that picture. It means whatever happened to Jay happened to him before 5 o'clock in the morning, ladies and gentlemen. It means whatever happened to Jay happened to him after the 2:39 a.m. message that he sent to his friends saying they've got a marker on me, ladies and gentlemen. I think Jay realized that something was happening. I think Jay realized that his life was in danger. Where was Brad, Lucy, and Brandon at this time? How can they now all of a sudden split up? And Jay ends up with Ayub Qasim, who takes him to a secluded Airbnb, and he's never seen again. And what we now have is this guy called Josh Forshaw, who no one can verify, who doesn't even know Jay. He's the only person to come forward in the inquest and give all of this information that Brad, his friend, technically should have. Because all of the information that Josh has, if Jay sent that information, why are you sending it to Josh and not Brad? Why are you communicating with Josh and not Brad? Who is Josh? And why is Josh the only one that's turned up to the inquest, but none of the key witnesses have? It sounds to me like Josh is a plant. And those key witnesses who denied who they were hoping that Josh's information was enough to put this to bed. But you know what? Big up Debbie. Big up Warren. They're not stupid. If it wasn't for them, ladies and gentlemen, justice for Jay would have ended yesterday. Something truly dodgy happens, ladies and gentlemen, to Jay. The friends never cared about him. They cared about him, they would have shown up to the inquest. They never cared about him. Jay was being used the whole entire time. Brandon never cared. Lucy never cared. I think Brad partially cared. But when you know the true nature of what happens that evening, why are you going to turn up to an inquest and give evidence and talk? Speaking of Jay wanting to sell a watch, one of you guys left a fantastic comment in the last video, and you basically said this is Jay's first time in Tenerife. How the hell would Jay know how to sell a watch in Tenerife? How and who would he be selling that watch to? But he wasn't selling a watch, ladies and gentlemen. Like I told you, That was a facade. That was a fabrication. It was all about perception control. They wanted to make it look like Jay was involved in stealing a watch. Jay wasn't involved in stealing no watch. Like I said to you earlier, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the timelines, especially of these messages, they make so much sense. Connect the dots. In between the hours of 3 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the morning, something happened to Jay that needs to be investigated. They're the hours that need to be looked into. Look, we're going to leave it there, ladies and gentlemen. So much more to come. Make sure you don't go anywhere. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are newly watching. Make sure you leave all of your comments down below. I need to know exactly what you guys are thinking right about now, especially what we've just discussed in this video. But hit that like button, most importantly. Subscribe if you are newly watching. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.